come to the absolute luxury low carb recipe. Time for a little low carbohydrate beer. And actually, this stuff's very good. Now from this little country called Ireland, fantastic stuff. 9.9 grams of carbs. So if, like me, you find cooking extremely thirsty work, you might want to have a few of these on standby. And again, a couple of these, see, 20 grams of carbs. This time no burger on the bun if I'm having a burger for lunch. Still have my breakfast. Takes me to 15 grams, 35 grams. So again, what I'm trying to do is show you that you don't have to deprive yourself. You know, you just count the carbs. 9.9 grams, remember. So I think tomorrow I might just skip food and have 10 of these. Now, this is the ultimate low carb recipe, and it was given to me by a friend of mine called Stephen Chang, who, apart from insisting that I cut onions a certain way, which I have done for this recipe in his honour, showed me this many, many years ago, and it was at a Chinese banquet where each dish was served individually. And funny enough, at the end of the banquet you'd have the carbohydrate portion, whether that's rice or noodles. And he was telling me that you can actually offend the host by eating the rice or noodles, because that would say that you haven't had enough of the meat and the fish. So I thought this dish, apart from being, now I will say this is probably the most expensive of the low carbohydrate dishes that we've looked at. And the reason is simple. I've got here a whole tenderloin of beef, which looks absolutely beautiful. Now, all I've done, there's two pieces that run down the side here. They sort of roll back, and they're the tips. So you just cut them off, and you're left with one piece of meat like this. You've trimmed it of any excess fat. I hardly touched this, and this cost me $56. You can pay $120 for this, and you can get it. I've been to meat markets, wholesale meat markets, that you can get this for $25. So if you shop around, but the one thing you must not compromise on is the quality. This dish does not work with other cuts of beef, so don't be tempted. Save it for your dinner party. It's a family treat, as you can see, but when we serve it very thinly sliced. And you'll see in a minute how simple it is by when we come to make the sauce. So that's it. Now we take that beef fillet, tenderloin, call it what you like, and I've let this sit for about 2 or 3 hours to bring it up to room temperature. Because there's nothing worse than taking an ice cold piece of beef that you pulled out of the butcher's refrigerator and slamming it straight into a hot oven. It's going to shrink, and it's not going to be anywhere as nice as if you just let the meat come up to room temperature. So the quality of this you can eat is raw. So, all I do with this is as follows. I place it on a rack. No salt, no pepper, nothing, and you'll see why when we finish it. This goes in the oven, 400 degrees, which I've got preheated. And I'm going to check this after about 10 minutes, because we're going to cook this very, very quickly and very lightly. We're not interested in colour. We're not worried about, as I said, seasoning it. It just goes straight into the oven. There's no oil on it. That's it. So, before I give back the sauce, I think it's time, and only fair, that I sample some of this black low carbohydrate beer. Very nice. Now, the sauce. Now, one apology to Mr. Chang before he actually flies over on a plane from London and tries to kill me. In this saucepan, I have got 1 sliced onion. I've got half a cup of light soy sauce, and it should be, apologies to Mr. Chang, because I've had to amend your recipe because I could not find, for love nor money, in the whole of this area, a red chili pepper. Because he tells me that a green chili pepper simply will not do, so I've had to substitute it. So if you can all imagine, that's a red chili pepper with the seeds in or out. It's actually a bell pepper, and it's the first time I've done it with a bell pepper, and I can't imagine it's going to change the flavour that badly. Just check the time for the beef while I'm there. Now, that's it. So it's half a cup of light soy sauce, 1 onion sliced, and a slice to Mr. Chang way, by the way, which is half and then on the half and not from the end, and a bell pepper. Now we don't do anything with that except leave it there, and we move on to the actual main part of the sauce making, which is the other ingredient, which is half a cup of peanut oil. So half a cup of soy sauce in there, half a cup of peanut oil in there. All we do now is we turn that on, and it has to smoke. So we have to bring that, when we start seeing smoke come off that, it's ready.
Do you have any special considerations for diabetics that they should be considering when...
Well, again, I've got to be I'm not a doctor by any means, but I would assume that, again...
They're starting off very low carb, obviously, many of them.
I mean, that's probably Dr. Ellis is better qualified to talk about that. For me, I suppose it's all about controlling your blood sugar levels, and surely I would have thought a lower carbohydrate diet is the better, but I mean, I'm not an expert on that. I couldn't tell you.
Right. And how do you apply a low carb diet for your children in your family? Do you do much different for them, or do you just have them eat the way that you eat?
Well, it's a strange thing, you see, because I've got 3 children, and it looks like 2 of them are carb-tastic addicts. They go crazy. But my daughter, now she's never liked, I mean, her staple diet when she was young, as soon as she could eat solid food, was avocado, cheese, then beef, then cheese, then bacon, then cheese. And even now, if I give her a burger, she'll just about eat the bun, but it's hard work for her. She doesn't like French fries. She used to go out for burgers, and she'd just literally throw the bun away without even thinking about it. I never ever told her. My son, on the other hand, is completely carb crazy. He would live on fried rice if it was his choice. But I can't. At the moment, what's important is they get calories at this stage, because they're growing. They need to eat, and you try and influence them, but not to the point if they're not going to eat. That's worse. And just while we're talking, by the way, we said we'd come back to the pork in a few minutes, and it was starting to dry out a little bit. The eggplant wasn't releasing too much of the moisture, probably because I took it all out with the salt. So the eggplant's starting to soften up. I just added a little bit more chicken stock. And all I have to do now is just check and make sure the seasoning's right, and that's ready to serve. So look, you can see our oil now is starting to smoke. And we want that to absolutely smoke as much as possible, because that's the secret that's how we're going to cook the sauce. We're going to pour the hot oil onto this, put the lid on, and it's cooked. Now the beef and the sauce need to be served at room temperature, so it's a dish you can do beforehand. And if you're serving it for a family meal, which will be an expensive family meal, but why not? Treat yourself every now and then. You can add the rice, and you can add some green vegetables if you wanted to. It's great as a dinner party, dish. But for me, it's just one of the most simplest. I mean, you're taking a whole beef tenderloin, and the process is so simple. Anybody could do this, provided you can get the right quality cut of beef. It's so easy, and that's the big attraction. So you can see it's just coming up. You'll see why we need to get it smoking in a second. And the advantage of peanut oil, of course, is that the smoke point is very high, and you're not going to turn the oil rancid. If you used olive oil with this, it would be lethal. The taste would.
If you eat a lot of carbs one day and you're trying to lower your carbs the next day, sort of to balance it out, how do you act? Do you just eat very, very little carbs, or even no carbs?
Do you mean if you're trying to bring it down, or if you overeat by accident?
Say you overeat by accident.
By deliberate accident.
Or you went and got drunk, or whatever.
So you had 20 of these instead of
20 of these instead of just 10. How do you do? Do you go to straight 0 carbs nearly, or do you just scale back for a few days?
Don't beat yourself up over it.
Right.
I've done it, and I felt so guilty, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, if I do it daily because daily is easy to control, but if you just said to yourself, if over a year, if between 2010 and 2011, you ate on average 300 grams of carbohydrates per day, and between 2011 and 2012, you ate on average 180 grams of carbohydrates per day, right? So yes, the idea is to look at it daily. Don't let it run away with you. But if you do have a bad day, don't kill yourself over it. Just go back to square one, start and say, right, what do I need to do today to get my diet under control? I would say just don't binge. Don't make the binge again. If you're binging every day, you've got problems, because the game's over. Mm-hmm. But you could say, right, let's take my average carbohydrate intake over 1 week. You've got to be disciplined in some way. We've got to take point A and point B, whether it's a year, a day, a month, a week. We've got to make sure that we reduce. If it's over a year, then as long as our average has come down. If it's over a day, and we have like, we start at 300 grams, we get ourselves comfortable down to 200 grams, and all of a sudden we binge and we have that ice cream cone and we're back up to 300 again. Then, don't kill yourself, go back the next day, start at 200 again.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you had slumps when you did it because you went cold turkey.
Yeah,
but how do you have any special tips for avoiding slumps?
Don't do it. Just don't go
cold turkey, and you won't have those slumps. You're saying
take a starting point of where you are today and be brutally honest. Don't kid yourself. Just add up all the carbohydrates you eat, every single bit of sugar you put in your mouth. That's why I'm not doing carb counts on this, because you've got to do it yourself. That's the only way you get discipline. And that's the problem with diet books. They do it all for you. And all the mail order food supplies that give you the calories, and that's not taking control. That's just dependent on somebody. And then you read the books that say you follow this, and this. Again, dependency. Get to know how much sugar there is in everything, and then add it all up. There's your starting point. Let's say that's ridiculous. Let's say it's 500 grams. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And it's stupid. You're way over. You've got a starting point, and you can work out. Let's say we want to go to 450 in the next month. And then we feel brave, we can get down to 350, 300. That's how you do it. It's not, let's go from 500 to 20. Because you're going to crash. And when you crash, you're going to say, well, to hell with this, and back on the diet again. Now, just while we're talking, that is now smoking as we want it to smoke. And this is how simple it is from here. I turn this off. That's it. Lid goes on. The right lid goes on. And we forget about it. Now, when the beef is cooked, or let's say, what are we now, 8:16, in about 5 minutes we'll come back and look at the beef. That we can forget about now. That just needs to come back down to room temperature. The beauty of this dish, it's not served steaming hot. So you can prepare this 2-3 hours before your guests arrive, for the family dinner, and it tastes, as you're going to taste it, it tastes absolutely beautiful. It's worth every single cent. So let's check back on the beef in about 5 minutes.